Hi and welcome to Board Game Opinions at the final of the World Mind Sports Olympiad, the Lines of Action final. I'm Steve Raine.
I'm Ankush Khandelwal.
And here we are with James Heppell on the left in the blue shirt, the very dark blue shirt, and Dave Sedgwick on the right in the light blue shirt. This is the final, Lines of Action. I've never played the game before, but I do roughly know how to play. I believe the winning condition is to get all your remaining pieces touching.
Yes.
And to move a piece, you can move any piece a certain distance in any direction you want, and the distance you can move it in is equal to the number of other pieces in the diagonals. Is that correct?
That's right.
So if we look at the top the top left black piece at the moment, that can move 2 in any direction, because in the diagonals from the black piece there are 2 other pieces. The top left piece, is that correct?
That can move 2 in the diagonal, or it could move 3 along in this row.
Okay, so it can move, if you want to move orthogonal in a row, it would need to be equal to the number of pieces in that row.
Yeah, so the power of a piece is dependent on how many pieces there are of that colour and the opposing colour on that row, diagonal or column.
So if you want to move diagonally, you look at how many pieces are in that diagonal and you can move that many spaces.
Yes, but the exception is you can't jump over your opponent's pieces.
Okay. And you can't move less than that. So if my power is 2, I have to move exactly 2.
Yeah, you have to move exactly.
Okay.
So this is the World Championships. This is the final game of the tournament, and on the left we've got James Heppell, who's like an excellent all-round games player, and Lines of Action is one of his strong tournaments too. I believe he's won this tournament before. And Dave Sedgwick is also a very strong games player, and I think he specialises in Lines of Action. So it should be a cracking encounter.
And this was held at the World Mind Sports Olympiad, and this is also, they run as their World Championship for this particular game as well.
Yes, this is at the Mind Sports Olympiad in London, and that's the board games festival that's open to everyone from the public, but it has competitive play, competitive tournaments like this, but it's also aimed at casual players if you just want to come along and play board games for fun.
He just jumped over his own piece. Is that allowed?
You can jump over your own piece, but you can't jump over your opponent's piece.
Okay, so he's blocking in white at the top by doing that, and white is blocking black in on the right hand side by doing that, because he can't be taken back. This is a game where you can also take the opponent's pieces, so you could start taking lots of the opponent's pieces, but if they can still connect their remaining pieces together, they still win.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I find about this game is the calculation aspect is a bit like chess, or at least the skills that the calculation skills required in chess. To be good at chess, you can also use in Lines of Action, but then it's also about central control and like piece play and positional play, like most abstract strategy games where you just want to control the center.
Are you trying to avoid having your own pieces taken?
It depends. You don't want to have your crucial pieces captured. So if you've got a piece in the center that's like joining together to like your whole army, you don't want the center piece to be captured, because then it'll be a lot of work to connect all of the rest of your pieces. But if you have your side pieces captured, it doesn't matter too much.
So it isn't necessarily the person who captures the most will win. You can capture the most and still lose because they've got control of the center.
Absolutely. I wouldn't really say there's a correlation between like pieces captured and victory, at least amongst strong players.
You also don't want to get your pieces stranded either, do you? Because if you kind of move a lot of your pieces away and there's one piece at the bottom, if there's nothing in sharing the kind of the rows and diagonals of that piece can't move at all. Or can only move one, can't it?
It'll move one in maybe a direction you don't want it to move, so you have to be wary about that.
So what's a good opening move then, or does it depend on who you're playing against?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert on Lines of Action openings.
Okay.
So I think there is like a common opening that the strong players use. I try and like copy them before I play the tournament, but I wouldn't say I truly understand
it seems like both of them have kind of moved their pieces kind of parallel to their opponent's back line. So white on the right hand side has moved their pieces up and down that line, and black on the left and the top has moved their pieces there. That's kind of to block the opposition pieces from doing anything.
Yes.
And this is played on a shot clock as well, isn't it? So you'd have 20 minutes each, and after they've taken their turn, they tap the timer.
Yeah, so a chess clock, 20 minutes, no increments.
Increments would be after every so many minutes you get a minute back or something.
After every move, you can get a certain amount of time back. That's quite a common time control in chess.
Mm-hmm. And in this game, if they run out of time, they lose?
Yes.
Have you ever played this tournament yourself, Ankush?
I have. I've played it multiple times. I won it once, maybe about 5 years ago.
Congratulations.
And I played it this year as well. I had a grueling encounter against James, but he got the better of me.
So you played James on the left there?
I did.
Yeah. And this is the actual final match then?
I think so. I think the tournament situation was James had won all 5 of his games and David was on 4 wins out of 5. So if David got the victory, he'd get the gold.
Winning on the tiebreak.
Winning on the tiebreak. And if James won, he would get the clear gold with a clean sweep. And this is actually a very important game for the pantomime, the overall competition in the Mind Sports Olympiad. And that's whoever gets the highest score in all the different tournaments, or at least the top 5 scores. And if James were to win or draw this game, that would be a huge score for his pantomime.
How did you do in the pantomime this year?
I came second.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And James came first.
Okay.
He had a fabulous tournament, and this was one of his many victories.
Okay. So I'm not good enough, I'm afraid, because I've not actually played the game. I had a quick go on an app at one point, but I'm not good enough to kind of understand the tactics. So if you can see them doing something that I need to be made aware of, please don't hesitate to tell me.
Sure. It looks like James has got bunching his pieces together towards the top of the board. It looks like he's got a good central control. When I play the game, that's what I'm usually thinking about, trying to put my pieces somewhat close together near the center, try and group them together a bit, and if my opponent's got some strong pieces, I'll capture those, and trying to make sure my pieces don't get captured.
So you're only capturing more as a strategic thing than trying to, more to kind of break them up rather than just for the sake of taking pieces off the board.
That's the only reason I'd capture, otherwise I wouldn't bother.
So those 3 white pieces at the top, there's no point capturing them because it's going to be very hard for white to kind of connect them up?
I think it'd be a terrible move to capture them, because white would have to spend a lot of time to escape from that predicament right now, and you'd just be letting them off the hook.
So he's trying to get out from around that.
Yes.
And he can keep doing that every turn, can't he? Just to kind of...
You can, but it's very slow, and
it gives James a chance to consolidate.
James has got these 3 pieces on the right hand side. He's got to find a way to connect those up.
Because he can't move some of those pieces, can he? Because the white ones are in the way, so you'd have to move them up or down, really. You can't move them
that's
diagonally.
not ideal. Yeah.
So the two black pieces touching on the right hand side, neither can move diagonally to any sort of effect, especially the bottom one of those 2, because the white pieces are blocking them. The black piece at the bottom, can that jump over diagonally, like northwest?
It can't right now because it's got power 4.
It
would land on its own piece.
So, but if David moved the piece at the top out of the way,
yes,
then he could do that. So David probably won't do that on his turn.
I think he shouldn't do that.
How often does time play a consideration in these matches?
I mean, it's an important aspect, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, how many do you lose many matches because running out of time?
Not directly, but because it's really silly to just let your time run out, especially if you're an experienced player. You should never lose on time. But what would happen is you go short on time, and you're not able to spend time to think on crucial moves that you want to, and then you'll make a mistake. So you lose as a consequence of being short on time, but never directly because you lose on time.
So I imagine the person who's losing is probably taking the most time anyway, because they're in more difficult positions.
I don't think that's strictly true, but that can often be the case.
Because I've never heard of this game then, so how long has it been around, do we know? Is it quite an old game?
I'm not completely sure.
Okay.
David's just moved the piece towards the centre. James has got the opportunities to capture that with his piece at the top.
But then that's not. Is that a bad capture because he still has a group of 3 if he does that?
I would be quite tempted to capture, although the thing is, if he doesn't capture, if James doesn't capture David, David's going to capture James on that spot and break up his island at the top.
So this is more of like a defensive capture. You're doing it so you don't get caught back.
Exactly. Or maybe James will find another way to block the capture.
Because if you could get another piece on the same column, then that capture is no longer available.
So he might move the piece on the left 4 spaces to the right.
I see, yeah. So the one in the middle of those 3,
yeah,
4 to the right.
And then that would change the power of all the pieces on that column, and that would defend his piece. I think I quite like that move. But then if he was to do that, David could capture with the piece on the bottom right and take the piece.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So
okay.
that would be a counter. So maybe that's the reason why he wouldn't make that move. So
it makes more sense to capture that piece and break up David's hold on the middle as well.
Sure. So there's a lot of these tactics, like if I go here, he can counter with this.
But like we said, capturing isn't necessarily a bad thing to have your pieces captured.
Yes, depends which piece and when. I think I expect James to capture the centerpiece because I can't see a good way for him to defend it. But we'll see.
How many people played in this tournament roughly? Because again, it's a game I've never played before, so I don't know how popular it is in the...
Maybe like 30.
Wow, that's quite a lot.
There was this expert who came from Germany specifically for the Lines of Action tournament. I think it's a more common game in Europe, not 100% sure. I've not come across it anywhere else other than the Mind Sports Olympiad. But I do find it a fascinating game.
If 30 people came to play, they must be quite popular, because that means there's...
Sure.
Yeah, he's done the move you suggested. This can't be taken straight back either, can it?
No. I don't think he would have done it if he could be recaptured.
Yeah, so you're very good at spotting, because I mean, when I had a quick go of this game, I struggled to see like the position and the strength of the pieces after I made my move. So in terms of being recaptured, I wouldn't be able to necessarily spot, because as soon as you move a piece there, it changes all the other pieces that could potentially take that piece.
Yes.
To, they maybe, I'm not going to move there because they're going to be taken, but if you did move there, you couldn't be taken because things would change power-wise. So David's been able to get one of his pieces off from the top row.
Although he's taken one of James's piece that was trapped, so I'm not sure if I like this move. I think I would have preferred David to use this white piece in the top right to capture the centerpiece at the top for James. Moving it 3 spaces to the left.
And that breaks up James's hold on the top.
I think I would much prefer that move. Now I expect James to play this piece at the top of the 3 on the left hand side of the board, 3 to the right to control the center. And then followed up with the move we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Of the second highest piece on the island on the left, 4 to the right. And if he does it in that order, that piece would now be protected from the bottom right piece, the white piece that David's got.
Can you ever completely surround a piece then? So like that black piece at the top, if you got 2 more white pieces to the top and the top left of it, that black piece could never get out, could it?
That's true. I don't think I've seen that happen. But it would never be able to get out, but you could always threaten to capture one of those pieces, so it's not like completely trapped.
But if James is building in a big collection of black over here and you did block one of his pieces off, he would actually have to kind of disassemble his...
Yes, that would be a strong strategy.
A bit like getting the lock in backgammon, isn't it?
Yeah. You mean, is it backgammon?
In backgammon, when you
I see what you mean, yeah.
When you've taken them and they can't get out.
So David's got a small advantage on the clock. Almost 3 minutes.
But you'd imagine James has got an advantage in the play.
Definitely. And I don't think time's an issue right now.
You generally get more than enough time, don't you?
Yeah. So James has gone for a different plan. He's now threatening the piece, David's piece on the long diagonal.
So he's threatening David's, but David can't threaten James's because there's a black piece in the way. So there's a piece at the bottom left for black, the very bottom one on the left-hand side. It's actually going to struggle to get out at some point, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no power on either diagonal or the row, so
you'd have to either move it two up, and then you've got more power either direction, haven't you?
I expect James to move one of the pieces on the left-hand side towards the centre.
You don't think he's going to make that capture you spotted earlier?
I don't think it's required right now.
Okay, you just think he needs to get his pieces towards each other?
Yeah, I don't think the capture is that beneficial either, because he's got this group of 4 in the top left. I think that's quite strong.
But if he does capture the one, so it's the one that's 3 left and 3 up from the right corner. If he does capture that, then the 2 in the diagonal, these 2 here.
Actually, I think he's got a very strong move. He could move the piece on the bottom right 3 diagonally
to
to northwest.
Okay.
And that's a problem piece for him right now, but it won't be once he makes that move.
Oh, because so that move wasn't available the turn before because David's moved from that diagonal.
So yeah, I don't really like that move by David, but maybe he's got a counter that I'm not seeing.
That's a couple of moves in a row that you've not liked from David. He's basically giving up the centre to James.
I think that move is very strong. I can't see what David would do. He's got this. He'd have this huge central block, and he looks very ominous.
And moving that would allow that bottom left black piece to have more power.
He didn't go for it. He went for a different capture.
He's still got that as a backup action.
He does, yeah.
Because if David takes it, he doesn't mind. If David blocks it, we can't block it, can he? He can't block that diagonal. We can. He can move the one at the top down to.
Yes, that would.
But that would be but that would be poor because then he would just be recaptured.
Oh, true. But you can see that James's black pieces here are quite well coordinated, whereas David's are quite scattered.
So James is clearly favourite at this position.
I think
the 3 minutes on the clock is irrelevant.
Yes. But we'll see, maybe David can fight back.
So now you expect James to move this piece down the diagonal 3 spaces?
I did expect him to do that last time, but maybe it's a question of timing of when he wants to do it, as you said. Because if he moves the diagonal now, then this piece on the top on the left-hand side Loses a bit of power.
Loses a bit of power. At the moment, he can move that 4, and that
if
would
he
be...
wants to move it that direction, but he
Yeah.
might want to move it northeast.
When you have to get them touching at the end of the game, do they have to be orthogonal?
They just have to be touching like 1 square apart.
So diagonal would count
Diagonal
as well.
would
So
count
diagonal,
as
so
well.
that's fine. So that's not necessarily a problem. So according to what you said, then the strongest move would appear to be to get the one that's by itself on the right hand side. I know he's chosen to do that first. Oh, he wins in 2 moves then. If David doesn't do anything, he moves
Yes.
the bottom right one diagonally 3, and then he can move the bottom left one diagonally 2.
Yes.
So David has to do something to break it up. He has to try and capture, but it doesn't look like there's an available capture.
He's found a block. So
Yeah, okay. So James now has to somehow get this piece out.
yeah. So this is what I found surprising, because that was a problem piece for James.
Well, could James move the one at the top right 3 that way,
Yes,
and then this could capture that and be joined up?
that's true. Maybe that's what his plan is. But you have to be careful, because I think David might be threatening to capture James's piece at the top right, but it's the left one from his
Okay.
bottom right piece. I think James is calculating the ramifications of that.
So David's actually not far from connecting some of his pieces up, is he?
Yeah, if that was to happen, those sequence of moves, then it's looking somewhat close again. I'd be really curious to see why James didn't.
Move that out of the way.
Yeah.
Because David always had that block available.
Oh, he's going for a different
Oh,
connection
wow.
strategy.
Okay.
1, 2. Okay.
So he wins in 2 moves again.
And this, is it 2?
Yeah, because that one can move there.
Oh, yeah.
And then this has power 2. So apologies, I'm pointing at the screen. The black one in the top right can move left 3 spaces. And then the one that James has stranded on the left-hand side can then move diagonally 2, and he wins.
Mm-hmm.
And this stops the capture as well. So the capture that you mentioned about David taking the bottom right white piece.
He's blocked it because you're not allowed to jump over your opponent's pieces. You only jump over your own pieces. So that was a smart move there by James.
Yeah. He might have always had that in the back of his mind, because the advantage of having that big block of black pieces is the ones at the back can jump over the ones at the front to capture things,
Yeah,
but white couldn't do the opposite.
yeah.
Remind me never to play you at this game. I don't think I'd stand a chance. So there's 3 minutes on the clock in favour of David, but James is 2 moves away, and he's going to be close to 2 moves away for the rest of the game, I imagine,
Yeah.
unless David can do something.
So this is quite common in endings of lines of action. It's like both sides threatening to win in like 1 or 2 moves, and then you have to first of all spot how they're threatening to win, and then find a way to counter that, and it becomes quite interesting.
So when you have the overall championships at the Mind Sports Olympiad, that is across every event, is it?
It's across every event.
And you count your best 5 scores, and
Yeah.
that would be your final score.
But there's some you can't just use any 5 events.
The subcategories, or
There's some rules on which events count, or if you've already used one chess event, you can't use another chess event, for instance.
okay, would this count as a chess event?
No,
Okay, this would be like in an abstract.
this counts as its own event.
Because so are there subcategories as well? Would there be like a Euro Games champion or a
Yeah, so
abstract
the
games
last
champion?
the last 2 years we've had the Eurogames World Championships, and I believe Mike Dixon has won it both times. And we've been adding a lot more Eurogames to the Mind Sports because they've been a lot more popular just around the world.
They're
So,
becoming mainstream now.
Yeah.
The games like Settlers of Catan, which was, geeky and a bit, out of the way a few years ago, is now it's sold in Waterstones and sold in Smiths and stuff like that.
yeah.
So David's thinking. He looks like he's in a losing position. He's spent about 2 minutes on this last move alone. Do you see any outs of him? Is there anything he can capture or try to get in the way?
It looks difficult. I can't see anything at first glance. Maybe he can move the piece at the top left to like southeast to block the jump that James wants to make that we were talking about. I think that could be a good move.
James can't capture in response, can he?
He can't capture, and
it also connects his pieces up.
It does. I think that's the move I'd make. That would actually threaten a win in 2 moves as well for him.
Would it?
Yeah, because then his follow-up moves would be the piece of the bottom right. Okay, maybe not quite.
Because the problem is, once you move the piece of the bottom right, the piece of the very bottom that would be left hasn't actually got a move.
Yeah, I was thinking you could move it 1 space to the...
You can't. No,
you have to move it 2 spaces.
Oh, but then this has got a 1 space move to the diagonal. So yeah, 3 moves maybe. But I imagine that James has probably got counters to most of what you're trying to do there.
Right, I agree with you there. But yeah, I definitely like the move, that move for David. Let's see if he does it. No, he went the other direction. Why did he do that?
I don't know.
He must have something
But he couldn't be taken there, could he? The place he was trying to move to couldn't be taken from. Oh, maybe he's threatening a capture. Oh, he can't be, can he? Because he can't jump over black pieces. As you expect James to jump the piece on the right over 2. So over 3 spaces to the left.
Yes.
The piece on the top right.
That's what we initially thought. Maybe David had...
But he hasn't threatened that. He can't capture the piece that James is going to move, yeah. So in this case, is James trying to work out what David's plan is?
Yeah.
Because that jump that we're suggesting James do, David could have stopped.
He could have stopped if he'd moved. Oh, James has gone for a different move. This game is completely over my head.
Well, the problem is now James is threatening a capture with the pieces just moved. Can now take the white piece.
But what was wrong with the move that you suggested?
I don't know.
Because that was threatening mate in 2, and I couldn't see a counter to that.
Moving that would be mate in 1, wouldn't it?
Well, fine. It's that move and then threatening mate in 1. But
can you tell he's a chess player, guys?
They actually use the terms mate in lines of action. At least the players who I talk with. But then they are also chess players.
So the time's almost equal now. David's struggling, I think. He's lost 3 minutes of time on James. James is bouncing his head up and down.
I wonder if there's like a lines of action engine which tells you like the best move. Because
I imagine this will be a programmable. I mean, I played against the computer on the app. Can you beat the computer?
I think the computer usually beats me, but I've not played in a long time.
So David must have had a plan then. He moved his last piece. It took 3 minutes to move his last piece, and he did something we didn't expect him to do.
But then James also didn't do something we expected him to do. So maybe he did have a plan, and we just didn't see it.
But I imagine that if James was to capture with the one he just moved, the one he moved 1 space diagonally, if he was to capture the white piece on the same row as it, then I don't think white has an out now.
That's true, but I mean, I would still go for the victory in 2 moves. Especially if I couldn't see a counter.
Because surrounding those 3 white pieces in like a ring of black pieces, the white pieces just can't get out.
Yeah. I mean, no, what you're saying is true. Like, it does look like a strong move, but...
You'd want to win the game. You'd want to threaten the win.
I can't see it. If I can win and I can't see my opponent stopping me, why would you not go
Because David can capture the piece that James is threatening to capture his, but then James wins in 1 move. If David captures...
Oh yeah, but that's...
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that would be a
that's-
no play. So
definitely
James
wouldn't
is
do that.
setting... Because the interesting thing about this game is sometimes they can both be threatening a capture,
Yeah.
but one way round you don't want to do it.
So one way David could stop that is by moving his piece on the bottom right to the diagonal.
Yes.
But then that piece would immediately get captured, possibly. But I'm not sure if that would help him, so... Let's see what happens. This was actually a very crucial tournament for James and the Pentamind. Both James and I were doing quite well, and whoever won this would have serious chances to go on and win.
At what point in this tournament did you play James?
I think it was round 5. And we were both on 4 out of 4. So David's now threatening to capture on the northeast diagonal with the piece that he's just moved.
And if he does that, he strands James's piece on the right-hand side.
Yes.
James hasn't got that much of an out to it, has he?
It doesn't look like it, but he's always come up with solutions before.
Because the piece that's threatening to be captured can't move out of the way. It can't move diagonally northwest. It can capture back, but we've discussed that isn't necessarily a good solution because you currently have it connected to your bits.
Yeah. I like that move from David.
I think James will capture the white piece that I said he would capture last time.
He's still got the other capture available on the island on the right, the piece, the white piece towards the left. He can capture with the black piece on the left-hand side of the board if it moves 4 squares to the right.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Oh, you think he's going to capture
I think I'm going to
that one, not this one?
No, I think he's going to capture the bottom one.
But there's also the one above it available too.
Oh, wow. We can't predict anything, can we?
No.
Oh, right,
David
okay.
responds immediately.
Or the different captures to the one we said. I believe
Um,
that's game, isn't it?
Oh,
And David didn't expect that, I think.
So he
David
made a
missed the
mistake
trick, yeah. I think he did.
so
So James wins the World Championships of...
lines of action.
yeah.
Well done, Tim.
Well done, Tim. He ended up winning the Pentamind World Championship as well.
You did.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching anyway. I've been Steve Raine.
I'm Ankush Khandelwal.
Thanks so much.